The internet has made it incredibly easy to connect with someone who you may have never have met in the real world. Between Instagram, TikTok, virtual classes, work, Facebook, Bumble, Tinder, LinkedIn, there is a limitless pool of possibilities to connect with someone. Especially in the age of the coronavirus pandemic, where human contact no longer exists, we need to make those personal connections whenever we can. This is the Long Distance Friend Show. Hello and welcome to the Long Distance Friend Show. This is the first ever episode. Today, my guest is my darling friend, Kharis. I have actually never met Kharis in person. We met online in acting class at Stella Adler. Kharis is actually in California, which is such a mind trip for me because I forgot time zones were a thing. Kharis, how are you today?
I am very well. I'm so happy to be here. Honestly, I'm just amazed. I'm just so happy that I was first in line to talk about my feelings and my thoughts. This is so great. Thank you for having
I
me.
am so excited. For anyone who knows me, they know that I love wonderful, talented people, and that's what you are. You are
Stop,
one of the most
stop.
talented actresses I have ever seen in my life. Whenever you perform, I literally get chills running down my spine, which is one of the reasons why you are my first guest ever, because there has been a lot going on in the world recently. And I feel as for two women of color, it's going to affect us greatly, especially in our acting careers. So, how do you
First
feel
and
about 2020?
First and foremost, thank you so much for the compliment. You were nothing but a light in that acting class as well. Secondly, 2020. Honestly, 2020 has been life-changing for everyone, but especially me on an individual level. I would say that if it wasn't for 2020, I would have never gotten back into acting.
Oh, wow. I found that too. I think it was because I had so much time on my hand. I thought to myself, well, what is something I always wanted to do? And it was to be an actress. And so I
Right.
looked up different acting classes and I was like, well, when I was a kid, I always wanted to go to Stella Adler. So maybe I'll audition. And I'm happy I did because I got to meet you and a whole bunch of other people.
Yes, absolutely. What's ironic about that situation is that my aunt, unfortunately, she passed last
Oh my God.
November and she left me some money, which was completely unbeknownst to me. I had no clue. And I've been trying to go to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts for 3 years straight. The summer program, of course. And I took the money, went to the summer program, fell back in love with acting, met Jane. Jane taught at ADA for short. And then she said that she taught another class. I email inquiring it. She enrolls me, and then I meet you.
Oh my God, that's crazy. So
Yeah.
we are just in the midst of a whole transitional period for the acting industry. How do you think 2020 is going to affect the future of our careers?
2020 put a lot of perspective for people. I mean, it's a lot of social, societal changes, political changes, individual changes amongst people who were just safe and secure. I think that there's going to be a lot of great stories, um, different outcomes to those stories. I think that the stories are going to be a lot more heartfelt and a lot more personal because no one was able to avoid the heartache that happened this year. And I also think there are going to be great stories because people are now seeing that they're not going to be here forever. And immortality isn't an option, but you can make something that will last forever. And I think that is what drives the film industry and what drives creativity and art and music and everything in between. I think
Yeah.
2020 is a breakthrough, a milestone, and a stepping stone. And if you hear my little brother, I am so sorry because he's 6 and he wants to be heard and seen. But yes, I think that 2020 is exactly what I expected it to be. Not in a negative sense. Like, of course, I didn't think COVID was going to be here. I didn't think people are going to be so hurt. But I
Yeah.
do think in the beginning of any decade, some major shift is going to happen. And I think that if it didn't happen, I'm not sure if anyone would be as appreciative of life and people and opportunities
Yeah.
that they were before.
Yeah, absolutely. And you could let your brother know that I too want to be seen and heard, so I understand his feelings. But no, that's such a profound way to put it. I completely agree. Especially with for anyone who's watching, I want to let you know now that if you don't agree with Black Lives Matter, this is not the show for you because we are going to get into it. But
Absolutely.
I think especially with all the horrible, horrible police brutality that was shown to us this year alone, it shows that we're about to tell some really, really traumatizing stories that people are not ready to hear. And it's going to offend people because they're afraid of their own toxicity. And I think that's something that 2020 brought out a lot. Because now you could look at a movie that's, like The Blind Side, a white savior movie, and
Mhm.
you're going to see in a whole different light now because of the events that took place in 2020. And, if we're not talking about Black Lives Matter, then what are we talking about, honestly? But even with COVID, you could see that all the Grey's Anatomy kinds of shows have decided to put that into their show, which some of them do it great. And some of them aren't wearing face masks the entire time, and it kind of pisses me off. So I think that even though a lot of great stories are coming out of it, I feel like we really have to make sure that we take a lot of care and time in how we tell those stories because it's so easy to just put something out there and let it be mediocre. But because this year just had so much depth to it, I feel like this is a wonderful opportunity for us to grow and become better versions as artists.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I feel like COVID has definitely put into perspective of what can happen and what will happen. And it also puts in perspective of what we should do in preparation for disasters and for people to lose a lot of things. And I
Yeah.
feel like we're not in preparation for that at all. Not even just on a societal basis, but on an individual basis. I had no clue. I mean, a lot of people, especially minorities, didn't have any, savings to fall back on. Most of us were already working 2 or 3 jobs, mostly like in retail or hospitality or something that involved interaction with people, and that was snatched away. And I think that it's good to incorporate everything in art, like life imitates art, art imitates life. And I think that being careful, but also just being honest is the way to go because the truth isn't quiet or nice. you know, there's nothing really nice about the truth. Um, the truth is what it is, and it's how you deal with it and how you respond to it. So I do think that we do need to be careful about the people who have experienced it personally.
Yeah.
I mean, I know some people who have passed from it, and I greatly it wasn't in my immediate family. It was just like extended people that I've, crossed paths with. And to see, I just imagine being that person. And then I see COVID-19 memes making fun of it or someone saying it's not real
Yeah.
and people denouncing it and or just little things that people can't control like how come my family member passed and this person came out okay.
Yeah.
It's just it's so hard on our mental. Then on top of everything, we're at home with our thoughts. I was already suffering at home with my thoughts without the quarantine, without any help from anyone. I was already at home with my thoughts like, oh my God, please stop.
No,
And here we are.
absolutely. Yeah, and especially for theater workers. I mean, I was about to house manage my first off-Broadway show before the pandemic hit. And
Oh wow.
yeah, I was really looking forward to it. But that was what I had lined up after college. I didn't have a game plan after that. I was like, good. I got the job. I know what I'm going to do right after college. Everything's planned out and I'm going to figure it out as I go. But no, COVID was just like, hey, sis, you don't really have a plan because you work in theater.
No. Right.
And
I'm telling you, seriously.
oh man, all those people, like, we won't get the theater back until COVID is under control. And they want to say that they could open back Broadway in May or April, but it's not going to happen unless we take the precautions that make it happen. I mean, you're in California where everything just locked down again. Like
Again.
how is the film industry going to continue doing their shoots if everything continues to close down? How are we going to make new stuff on sets? And to follow up on that, I am a background extra, of course. Every young, fresh actor probably is. And
Absolutely.
I won't say who I work with for background, but they'll say, "Oh, we have this wonderful shoot that you could go on, but we want to let you know it's 80 people and no masks on set." And it doesn't
No.
matter how badly I want to be an actor. I can't go to that set and work knowing that I could take something back home.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a frightening time to be an actor. Absolutely frightening. I know I tell my therapist, everyone should go to therapy, by the way. Um, therapy's great. I tell my therapist all the time, like, it's such a strange time to pursue acting because of what's going on. Like, I could have caught this acting bug last year or the year before and be much further, but God has a different plan and it happened this year. And it's just the uncertainty. There was already so much uncertainty at first. And then on top of that, now we have the COVID where we can't go on auditions. And if we do, it's virtual, then there's no guarantee that it's safe on set, like what you were saying. But at the same time, I do see the film industry booming as soon as all this is cleared up and the vaccine is out and people are taking it and travel bans are lifted and whatnot. But until we get there, how are we going to really appreciate actors? And it's just something that I think of all the time. It doesn't stand in the way of me auditioning at all, but it's still something that makes you think, like, you know, when will I be able to go back to what I imagine acting will be? You know, traveling, going on movie sets, taking on all these roles, but everyone's so careful.
Yeah.
It's frustrating.
And the thing is, there are probably some actors watching. If so, hi, welcome to our show. And they're probably like, oh, well, there must be precautions and protocols that they're taking to make sure that everyone is safe. But here's the thing, we're just starting out. We're new. We're not in SAG or AFTRA yet. So we might go on
Yeah.
a set and we won't get those safety precautions because the people are like, oh, well, we don't have to make you legally sign anything. It's not in your contract. Your union isn't
Mm-hmm.
going to do anything. Meanwhile, there are some actors who can go back to work, which is awesome. That's probably how they have Grey's Anatomy going because, they could get tested daily.
Mm-hmm.
They could make sure that they're getting their temperature checked. They can make sure that the masks are being worn on set and off set and that everyone is socially distanced. But for us, it's such a grab bag that we don't know if we're going to get that kind of set when we're auditioning.
Yes, and that's the biggest precaution I have. Since I'm starting to audition all over again, I'm wondering how safe is this set? And sometimes they put in the description like we're going to have someone on set that's, specializing in sanitizing the area and whatnot. But it's just, is anyone ever going to be careful enough to really abide by what's going on?
Yeah.
It's very interesting time to be an actor.
And I mean, even in the big film industry, we just read an article that Tom Cruise went nuts on like his newest movie because one of the actors on set wasn't following protocols. So if big famous actors that are working with Tom Cruise are not following protocols, then what kind of hope is there for us?
Oh my goodness. It was hilarious. And it was, but I can completely understand. Would you not lose your mind? Like, Tom
I would.
Cruise has kids and he has a whole career. He has to work for this stuff, and you can't even be clean. Is that what you're telling me right now? Is that I'm putting all this money into this project and you can't be clean? Oh my gosh, Tom Cruise.
Oh man. All
It
right.
was so great.
I think the time has come. We're going to talk about that one lingering thing in the room. So there have been a lot of protests going on. There have been a lot of people saying things. I'm not sure I've seen any actions yet
Mhm.
for two wonderful, beautiful brown women like us. How do you think the film industry is going to change in terms of us getting roles? Because I know that we've spoken about this at length about how sometimes it's so hard for us to get that romantic lead because we're always seen as like some side person or the quirky best friend, but we're never seen as something more serious than that. We're always a stereotype. Do you think the film
Yeah,
industry is going to follow up on all the promises they made and start casting more women that look like us?
I think as time progresses, yes, but not without the right amount of accountability. I think that everyone has to be honest in the film industry that they play a huge role in shaping media stereotypes and how people are looked in the day-to-day life. Um, I yearn and really hope for more opportunities for you and I. I think that sometimes, and I hate the thing that, yeah, I hate to be the one to say we have to do it ourselves because absolutely we have to do it
You
ourselves.
do.
But we can't do it ourselves without those people involved being accountable and helpful with the process. I think that there's a lot of fear that happens with change. So to cast you or me as a romantic interest, it's such a small thought, right? It wouldn't bother you and I or people that look like us, but it will frighten those who don't look like us
Yeah.
because there never was a change in their life or to where the perception of them on screen was ever shifted. So I think that it can happen and it will happen, you know, with Kamala being VP and yes,
Hell yeah.
you know, we have great role models like Michelle Obama, Issa Rae. I love Tracy Ellis Ross. All these beautiful women out there who are doing it and keeping themselves at a level of quality and high standards. It's just that we are still having a problem with seeing certain people outside of the box that was made for them.
Yeah.
So it's just to picture a Black woman, this is just from my perspective, to picture a Black woman outside of what has been shown to us and fed to us and taught to us, which is that, you know, where it might be lonely, never been married, might be loud or overweight or ghetto or ratchet, words that are derogatory and demeaning to the person or the individual. Until we accept that there is a big world out there full of sophisticated, educated, loving, wild, docile, mannerable, mature women, until we accept that we need to stop seeing people on the surface of skin color and below the surface of human, I think that's what really will make the shift in film. And I hope all that made sense.
That was so beautifully said. Oh my God. I don't even know. I don't even know if I want to follow up on that. That was perfection. And I mean, we have such wonderful role models that helped mold us into the women who we are and that helped inspire us and motivate us to go even further beyond than what we've seen before. And to think about it, when we're trying to emulate those wonderful women that we love so much, how many times do people look at us and tell us that we're acting too white?
I hate that so much. When I say I hate it so much, absolutely. I mean, growing up, because I was the one that was into theater and rock music, I freaking died over Twilight. Okay, I'm still reading the books. You see them? I'm still reading the books right now. Okay, I don't understand how anyone overlooked Jasper because he's like the cutest one on that whole set. Side note, and I am so tired of being exiled for being different. What's wrong with being proper? And it's just the system that programmed us to think that being proper was not for us.
Exactly.
That's the problem.
Like, how many wonderful Latina women can be bilingual and yet that's frowned upon? But if a white woman can speak French, that's okay.
Just
It-
I just can't accept it. Like, I can't accept it. I can't have a seat at that table. I can sit at another table, one that's understanding and
exactly.
open-minded.
Because
I
where,
Oh, I'm sorry.
no, it's no problem. Where the problem lies that I want to make sure that young actresses that look like us think about in the future is that we read casting calls all the time, and we'll see that there's a role that the description is perfect, but then it'll say Irish, Caucasian, American. Okay, that's the one that bothers me when they ask for someone that looks American, but then they
No,
say I don't look it.
no. The one that makes me so upset, and it's ironic that we're talking about this because I just talked to my mom about this. So literally, I've been, applying and auditioning, and the one that really grinds my gears, ethnically ambiguous.
Oh my god, yes.
On every single casting call, Black man, African American man, fine. Woman, ethnically ambiguous, European looking, European features on everything. So, for example, there's a project, I won't say the name. I saw what it was about and I was reading it, and it was about minorities, right? So
Yeah.
I said, okay, cool, this should be a role for me. Black man, of course, grade 18 to 25. Um, his friends, other Black boys, 18 to 25, are young men, I should say. The women, all ethnically ambiguous. And I can't get over the anti-Blackness in casting calls. I just can't get over it. Our
Exactly.
anti-people of color that are fully, because the fetishism with the biracial people is so unhealthy. And it's unfair to
Yep.
them also. It's, where they're just being seen for being not too Black, but not too white. You got a balance right in the middle. And you fit on TV because 9 times out of 10, they're very attractive, Eurocentric, by Eurocentric standards. Not saying that they're not, because I think everyone's beautiful. It's just that that's what they prefer.
Yeah.
And I may go a little off topic, but I was talking to my friend. I went camping.
Yeah.
It was awful. I went camping and I was talking to my friend about the power of imagination. And I think it's just ironic how I have friends that are in film school and they wrote scripts and whatnot, and how they would go to class and show their scripts, and how people say it wasn't realistic and it wasn't viable or bankable, I should say. And it's amazing to me how in imagination you just don't allow people to be who they are. So you're telling me in this mythical world, a Black woman can't be a fairy?
Yeah.
Are you telling me that your imagination stifles people? If you really look at it from a different perspective of how imagination works, because everything starts off as an idea.
Yeah.
So you're saying that in this make-believe world, mythical world, where anything is possible because we're artists, we're creating, that this aspect of this not happening in reality is stopping us from paving a way for it to be something new or a possibility in the real world. It's our job to construct it. We're
Yeah.
artists, we're creators, and we're responsible
Yeah.
for what will come next. We're responsible for changing perspective and seeing what can be and what could be. And we can't do that but taking the problems of what's in our real world right now and stuffing that onto the screen and calling it normal and calling it art. That's not art, it's enabling.
No,
it's
exactly.
it's not right. So I just wonder why we don't allow our imagination to expand past what's taught in our real 3D world.
Exactly. Especially when the real life definition of acting is living truthfully under imaginary circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, they could have put a Black person in Lord of the Rings.
And it wouldn't have hurt anyone.
Exactly. Like, nobody would have seen a problem with that. And it's just stuff like that like it really makes you think when you see those, like when you see ethnically ambiguous on casting calls, or you see like Caucasian European, just put your headshot in. Just be like, you don't
I
know
always
what you're
do it.
missing.
You can't tell me what I can't do, is what it is. You can't tell me what I can't play. You can't tell me that I'm not talented enough for this, because I know that I am.
Exactly. And the problem that I had, and like I didn't start doing that until recently, because
Mhm.
none of my acting teachers, I love them all to death. I've learned so much from them. But every time I would ask that question, they'd always say, oh, well, make sure that you fit the role. And I'm just like, well, I know I could fit the character, but they don't think that because of how I look, I'm a little short, chubby brown girl, that I can be that character, which is just wrong. I mean,
You
I
can be the
exist in this
character.
world. Like we exist in this world. Like we
The
are
character's on paper.
yeah,
Yeah, it's on paper. You become the character. The character becomes you. Acting is just what? Extensions of yourself.
exactly.
And if there is a problem with that, I don't understand it. I just started doing that as well, actually. Ironically, I guess we just started doing it at the same time, because if I didn't, there are no roles to apply.
Exactly. Exactly. And I mean, I'm sure the print world would love us, which is something I've gotten ever since I was a little kid. They're like, "Oh, we're really looking for women that look like you." And I'll like look at like some of the tabs that need to be checked off, and I'll just sit there and be like, "Really? People still call us exotic?" That's the one
That
that
word.
gets me when they call us exotic.
When I think of exotic, I think of a jungle. Like when people say people are exotic, I think of like the jungle and tigers and all of those things. I don't think it's a compliment at all. I don't think
I don't think
it's
so
a
either.
compliment. Yeah. And I think I feel like, just because the context is always derogatory, that is never going to be seen as a compliment. People only say exotic to say you look different from everyone else that I've seen. And that makes you more prettier or more appealing to my eye than everyone else I see on a day-to-day basis. And usually in like on my end, exoticism is towards people who are just not black, which is what I get. When those rap songs about being foreign
Oh
and
yeah.
not being from here and exotic, they're never talking about us. So it's just, on different sides of the spectrum, like on my side, it's an insult. And
Yeah.
on someone else's side, it's a compliment. And when you put on the casting call, I'm looking at all you casting directors. When you put ethnically ambiguous, I know what you mean. I know what you're saying, you know, and it's offensive because that just overshadows, even for you, it overshadows a huge palette of people. There's a big
Nobody
world
knows
out
what I
there.
am. Like
Right?
casting directors have no clue what I am. They'll just look at me and be like, Indian-y, Spanish, maybe some
Indian.
Italian. Like that's something I always get because I am a person that has to apply for ethnically ambiguous roles because
Mhm.
my mix is just so diverse. I mean, God bless my parents. I'm so happy they decided to come to New York and live here and grow a family here. That was a great choice
Mhm.
on their end. But I'm one of those people that I see ethnically ambiguous and I'm just like, okay, this is my role. But if I see like a role that's supposed to be played by an Indian woman, even though I
Mhm.
have Indian descent, can I still apply for that? A girl that's Puerto Rican, can I still apply for that because my father is Puerto Rican? Because I feel, and this is something I always talk about, I feel like I don't look like the stereotypical Indian girl or the stereotypical Puerto Rican girl that they're trying to portray. And
Mhm.
that's the biggest problem. And that's the one thing that needs to be tackled going forward in the film industry. Because it's great that we're applying, but casting directors need to know that there is a whole array when you're trying to cast a Latinx person, or you're trying to cast an Indian person, or even a Jamaican person. My mother is from Jamaica, but looking at me, you wouldn't look at me and be like, oh, yeah, she's Jamaican. No, absolutely not. You'll be like, oh, yeah, she's Spanish.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She's from
That's
Kingston.
what?
Yeah.
Amazing. I
Thank
love
you.
this.
But that's the thing. It's that now that we have this base and that they're like, okay, this number of people of color need to be on set, or this number of people need to be cast, so that, we could have the whole diversity thing set, which is going to make us think a lot about ourselves in the future when we're like, did we get here because of our talent or because we're diverse? But going forward, they need to know that there's a whole palette of people, that it doesn't look just like this. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, because I'm Spanish, that does not mean that I'm going to wear skinny jeans and talk with an accent. It doesn't mean that I know how to speak Spanish. Because I have Indian descent, that doesn't mean I watch a whole bunch of Bollywood movies. I mean, I do, but like, for another person, they don't know that. For women like me,
Mm-hmm.
we're so Americanized that we don't really know what kind of culture that we could fit into. So when casting directors, if you're watching this, hi, first of all, hire us. Thank you for watching. Uh,
Please.
but second of all, we need to make sure that they're aware that there's range. It doesn't look just like one thing, so that when it comes time for us to apply, they could be like, oh yeah, let's see what she has to offer. Not, oh, she doesn't look how we want her to look.
Yeah. And let's not be so obsessed with it. And there are some projects in movies that I watch where I'm just like, I am so proud of whoever casted this and whoever wrote this, because they're allowing the woman or the man to just be. And I love it, because if you are not showing real people, there's not much to relate to. And I feel like the changes in Hollywood are great, but there needs to be more. There's no way we can really show real authentic art without it. And it's just, we can't have like one or two shows here, or one or two movies every year
Yeah.
with one or two people of color actors, or there's someone that wrote it. It's just like, we need more variety, because it's a big world out there full of all types of people, all types of stories.
Yeah.
And that's another reason why I love Netflix, because there's so many stories,
Yeah,
so
it's
many
so
stories.
diverse.
I just love it. I love it so much. But we need it more on the big screen, because the goal for me is to be a film actor.
Oh, wonderful.
And I would love to see more roles for me. I mean, the roles that I look up to, such as, like the Joker. I love it. The Joker. Most of the roles I look up to are male roles, first
Uh,
off, because I just love the range and the abilities and the things that they're allowed to do. So I would love to see that for me or you or other women. I want to see strong roles that are not surrounded by trauma and heartbreak, and someone being the center of the trauma and heartbreak. I would
yeah,
love to just see a woman living her life and doing things and seeing things differently. That's another thing I would love to see.
exactly. And I mean, to move forward with that, we also have to do that to our Native American friends. Just a little sneak peek for future episodes. I have one of my favorite writers and one of my nearest and dearest friends. Her name is Tara. She's Native American, and I'm going to have her on the show. And I'm going to ask her a whole bunch of questions about how the film industry in Hollywood could depict her culture more. And, does she want to see more Native American stories, or does she want to see Native Americans just in the world, just starring in, the next Bridget Jones's Diary?
Hmm. I would love that. I would love that for her, for Black people, for everyone indifferent. I would love to see that. I talked to my mom about that the most. It's just, I want to see stories, beautiful rom-coms, crazy, pointless movies, funny, funny movies, scary movies, mythical movies, all of those movies. I would like to see just all people of color involved in all of those type of movies. I think it would just be great without it being so drastic or wrapped with victimization or trauma,
Yeah.
because we're real people that live lives. We laugh, we joke, we enjoy each other, we travel, we read books, we do things.
We love Twilight.
Right, we love Twilight. Oh my gosh, Harry Potter, all of those, Lord of the Rings. I love books. arts, tapestries,
Yeah.
fashion. I'm not sad every day.
And, you know, to like finish off as we're closing up, it's like what the beloved Ruth Bader Ginsburg said. Somebody asked her, when is there going to be enough women in the Supreme Court? And she said, when there's 9, when all 9 of them are women. And I think that goes for the movie industry too. When is it going to be enough for us? When we don't have to look at the casting description and worry, oh, should I apply for this role? It's going to be, oh, hell yeah, I'm just going to apply for this role and we just submit my reel.
Yeah, I think it'll be enough when we have to stop questioning it.
Yeah.
I think that's when it's going to be enough.
Oh man. Kharis, thank you so much for being my first guest.
Look at us both, Lauren.
I
Lauren,
am so happy that you came, and I'm so happy I got to speak with you.
I'm so happy that you even asked me. You're such a lovely light. Like every time I scroll down on Instagram, I see you smiling. I'm like, my day just got better. Look at her. You're just so radiant.
Oh
And
my
I
God.
love it. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. I can't wait. Thank you for all who watched me. Hopefully you'll see us both on the big screen.
Hopefully. So, do you have anything you're working on? Where can people find you?
Okay. Right now I'm writing a show. In the future, I hope so. Maybe in the next 2 years or so, it will be picked up. It's going to be called Archived.
Ooh.
So look out for that. You can find me on Instagram at 7diamonds. Let me spell it out. SE the number 7 ENDIAMONDS. And that's all I have right now. I have no YouTube. I have no Facebook. Instagram is where I let all the magic happens on there. Thank you so much, Lauren. And once again, I am forever humbled. Thank you so much. I will see you soon. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. You have a good one. Bye.
As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And if you relate to anything I said, let me know. I like to think of myself as very, very relatable and very, very awkward. I appreciate you guys so much. Bye!